let's turn another page here. Any other questions about the opening? I mean, this is, what I showed you is one stage of many, many, many in your sales process. But I just wanted to make sure there were no questions about that. All right, part 2 of this conversation, objections. Here's what an objection is. It's an act of objecting. It's not very original. A reason or argument presented in opposition, a feeling or expression of disapproval. Notice the word feeling or expression, not necessarily words. Hey, here's what you got to know. They're completely normal. They are. You want objections to be occurring because when people are objecting, that means they're engaged in the sales process. Yay, they're actually listening and thinking and coming up with concerns. Yippee. So you know you're on the right track. So here is a 4-stage process to overcoming objections. Its acronym is LAIR. So this is layer by layer to get yourself to yes or to a new opportunity. And the way it works is, number 1, to listen. What does that mean? Be sure that you're actively listening to what the client is saying. How many of you know that when you're listening to the client, you're already formulating your response in your head? You're actually not listening. And to the case you said earlier, you know that actually you've already got all this stuff built up as to what's going on, and you're not listening without filters. And how hard is listening? It's actually really, really challenging, isn't it? Like, to actively listen, it is actually a physical manifestation. You have to actually generate listening to hear the true intention of what someone's saying. Here's the good news, though. If you don't totally get it, you have an opportunity to actually acknowledge their point of view. So an objection is coming up as if you're dealing with a client. Let's just say, instead of taking it out of the sales domain, say you're already working with a client and the client comes up and they have a concern about something. So what's a concern that you've heard that we can make this a little more real and tangible? Someone give me a concern. So you really want to acknowledge their point of view in that moment. Okay, so, and when you do that, you want to check in, did I get that right? Because that says you're actively listening. Note that acknowledging is not agreeing. Oh yeah, you're really going to get tired of that. It's different. Amazing though, right? Couple words and totally, you're... So it's not about agreeing, it's actually having the person experience that you heard them. Isn't that a gift to give to someone when you actually acknowledge? Wouldn't that be a go a long way for our spousal relationships? There we go, you didn't know you were here for spousal relationship coaching. But it's true though, isn't it? So if you agree with the person, you close the door to exploring other options. There's nowhere to go if you agree with them, right, Mary, in that moment? Yeah, so that's what acknowledging is about, really having them, and they may go, no, 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 Marisha, you're completely wrong. That's not what I meant. Oh, really? Good, what did you mean then? Because I thought it was that. Exploring is the E. Seek to understand what the person means. Go a little bit deeper. Say more about that. Why is that a concern for you? That's always if I get stuck, say more about that. Tell me more about that. And I was saying that I actually had this very scenario this morning on a call where a client we've been working with for 7 months said they wanted to continue with our engagement, and then they flip-flopped and said we don't. And then we said, well, let's talk again. And so we started to listen, explore, acknowledge their concerns, like really tell me what are your concerns and explore what they were. And we've now come to probably a hybrid. We're coming back with a 3rd version of what we're talking about. But I have to tell you, my initial reaction was, come on, you guys, how you don't get how important it is that we continue working together? Like, come on. Like, your first reaction can be a little bit of hostility, and that's okay, but just transform that really quickly. Because that's going to get in the way. If you have any hostility towards your clients, it's gone. So if you notice you're hostile towards a client, you got some work to do. Because that is not why they hire you, and really not what you're going to enjoy in your work. So, again, by exploring, you can do this by paraphrasing the person's statement, what they said to you. If you're kind of stuck, and sometimes this one is really important if you really have no clue, like you're just lost. What is going on here? This one hit me from left field. Tell me more. Why do you feel this way? What's going, how did we get here? Like just really open-ended questions. Again, you have to be okay with that possibility that this ends in no in some regard. And then, last but not least, Then you get to respond with your rebuttal. Now, what often happens is that we go from listen to respond, and it becomes a tennis match where we're just slamming that ball at each other. This is actually a game of sport where you want to loft it over so the person can hit it back to you. And you want to have a nice volleying back and forth, not us slamming it down their throat, right, in this conversation. Because you may want to. How many of you get like, I'm going to show them. I'm going to knock them out of the ballpark with that and this. And no, take a little time, breathe, listen to some music, relax, and then come in open-minded to be able to explore what's really going on and to be able to really get to the key elements. And this will also help you avoid landmines, going back to something spoken to earlier, right? So this has to be practiced. I've coached so many people in this area, and they go right from listen to respond all the time. Catch yourself.